Hi, this is Priyanka and I welcome you all to Srijan Wednesday webinars. For those who are attending for the first time, this is a community initiative by Srijan Technologies. As a part of this initiative, we will host webinars every alternate Wednesday. We will have speakers from different domains who will talk about subjects like front-end technologies, UI UX, mobile apps, media, entrepreneurship, community building, digital marketing, and many more. Today we have Sairi Chahal with us. In the first 45 minutes, Sairi will be talking about digital economy and how it is widening work-life choices for women. The last 15 minutes will be for a Q&A round. You can ask questions by raising your hand and speaking into your microphone or by typing into the chat box. So about our speaker, Sairi is the CEO and founder of FlexiMoms and Cheetos. Both are online communities aimed at empowering women professionally. She is also a TED speaker, a serial entrepreneur, a mentor, workflex evangelist, and an occasional writer. So let's get started, Sairi. Over to you.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you for the introduction and thank you everyone for logging in. Before I get started, I want to say if you have questions, keep typing them and I'll try and answer them as quickly as possible. I'll also try and keep my presentation short so that we can have more interaction time. And a little bit about the topic and a little perspective into why we're talking about this. A lot of my work deals with women and their careers, and a lot of women we talk to are highly educated, highly empowered, and are making work-life choices very actively. But one of the things we constantly realize that the engagement with the digital economy, and when I say economy, I mean means of employment, means of production, means of supply and demand, means of monetization, by women, for women is much lesser than it is for men. For many reasons, and we can talk about it later, but while that is a truth, it is also a realization that a lot of potential lies online in rebuilding, retweaking careers, helping more women stay connected with their careers, and also helping more women engage with both the wealth of information and the financial wealth that can be created by using digital as a medium. Okay, so what is really the digital economy? It's just a very, very basic definition I picked up from Wikipedia. There's tons of brilliant literature, and if you really like, go read Nicholas Negroponte. He's really the father of the internet, if I may use that term. Essentially, when we say digital, it means it means the internet, the bits and bytes economy, the whole piece that's been built using code. So and using those to create what we do offline, to interact, to create educational material, to search, to look for information, to create platforms, to create means to engage, to create commerce, to create mobility, to create scientific inventions, to create innovations in services. There are hundreds and thousands of users. We all use most of them during the course of our lives. The fact that we're talking online is a brilliant example of how we are in middle of what we call the digital economy. And more every day the movement towards digital gets strengthened. It's only got better from where it the younger the population that comes to digital gets, the faster the change. And a lot of us realize, especially for a lot of us, the digital piece didn't happen until the middle of our careers or until the starting of our careers. We are, a lot of us are people who didn't grow up with digital as a medium. So, and therefore there is a certain disconnect. In fact, I was sharing with a friend yesterday that a lot of us who have trained in print. So I started my career with a magazine. So working in print and working in digital content-wise are two different pieces of cake. They're very different mediums, and our reactions and our reflexes to them are hugely different. What is unique about digital, I personally feel, as that it is a lot about what can be. The potential and possibility of using code to make what you want, or to achieve what is the larger objective, or to build out anything you may want. It can be a very small piece like a blog, or it can be a very large piece like a huge platform or a service, or even like a very cool thing, cool app like Uber or Airbnb. I mean, you look at the kind of services that are coming, who are just breaking old business models, bringing in new forms of engagement, changing the kind and quality of work that we all do. And that pretty much is redefining both the education that we need to have, or the skills we need to have, and more than that, the orientation and the approach we need to have. Of course, for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to keep it around means of employment, means of career, finding work using digital. If we are to narrow that down, there are hundreds and thousands of ways one can use digital, especially for innovation and building new products, and that itself is a large area. We can talk about it for weeks altogether. But ultimately, the big change when somebody moves from a non-digital environment to a digital is a change in perspective, a change in pace, and some old norms are broken and the newer ones get established. And that is what transitions in digital mean to be. And interestingly, while we are doing this on a laptop and a lot of us are logged in, I think within a year or so, this wouldn't be happening here. It'll go on a mobile or a tablet. Maybe some of you are already doing that. And those are the kind of transitions, the transitions of interface, the transition of user experience, the transition of being able to figure out what are the new norms in a new medium. And when it comes to careers, I think those are big ones. You know, a lot of us got trained to work in a very different kind of environment, and we end up working in a very different kind of environment. And that change continues as newer options emerge, and it's challenging pretty much everyone. It's challenging the Fortune 500 CEO as much as it is challenging the new intern on the shop floor. So exciting times, if to say the least. So interestingly, the digital economy is a very it is a harsh economy, because it does not even acknowledge the mediocre. It only works for the top of the line. I mean, if you look at market scenarios in the old economy, there was something for everyone. You could garner a 0.1% market share and be okay. You could work with margins of 10% market share, or you could work with being the second, third, fourth, fifth, and the 10th in line. You could do or if you were a worker, you were just one of them. You could survive by being average. Unfortunately, and while a whole lot of world has moved online, the thrivers of the online world, or the digital world, are the people who excel, people who pretty much dominate what they do. So there's only going to be one Guy Kawasaki, and there's only going to be one Sheryl Sandberg, and there's only going to be one Seth Godin, or there's only going to be one Tom Peters. And that itself sort of tells us about the nature of this medium, how it's displacing norms that have existed for decades altogether. So the first question, I think for everyone, including you, me, and anyone who's logged in, is what is it that I do best? What is the core skill that I identify for myself? Uh, what is it that I can do that nobody else can possibly be there? Or is there a differentiator at all? Or if there isn't any differentiator, can I make it a possibility to move towards creating a differentiator, creating a certain niche or a larger niche to really figure out who am I in this space, or how do I make sure that I'm the best person in this space. So identifying that skill and identifying a particular skill or what you do can come from various places. So it's not necessarily that the skill you have is a digital skill. You may make the best cakes in town, for example, or you may be the person who writes the most beautiful stories, or you might be the person who can uh, who hands cuts wood very beautifully, or you might be the person who has a great sense of landscaping and architecture. Your skill might be an offline skill, but it still comes from the fact that, are you really at the top of your game? Are you really the best in business? Because when the race happens online, or when you're being looked up online, it really matters. And of course, having a skill or a competence which is your core and connecting it to your digital prowess is also a journey, and one doesn't sort of they're not mutually inclusive always. So invariably, or a lot of us have skills which are not online skills. So, and I'm going to sort of uh, give a little benefit of the doubt to people who are naturally digital natives, people who have digital skills because of the nature of their work, and a lot of us do. People who code, people who do UX, people who do stuff online, who manage projects online, who market online. So obviously your sense of acceptance with digital is very high compared to somebody who has a job that's an offline job, somebody who sells steel furnace equipment, for example, or somebody who makes apparel, for example, or somebody who produces school bags, or somebody who sells a service which is a local service, a doctor or a nurse or a architect. Chances are they have a core skill which is not a digitally native skill, but they may have to adapt it or to retweak it. And the same question applies to a lot of people. The Indian educated worker is essentially a service employee. A lot of us have built careers using service industry, advertising, IT services, uh, uh, printing, publishing. There's a whole lot of sectors, HR, you name it, temping, staffing. There's a whole lot of services which are offline services, but now have a digital variant or have something to do with the online world. And chances are that distribution either happens online or your customer finds you using online. And therefore, the difference in how that gets redelivered, how does it get re-engineered, both as a business and as a professional, you're trying to figure out, how do I make the most of it? How do I, one, reduce my cost of delivery? How do I increase my reach? And how do I use the skill I have to build myself a set of long-term goals, or perhaps a career? And that's a journey that is obviously very customized. And strangely enough, while the whole platform of digital is common, and there's some very basic pieces that put it all together, the whole the need for hardware and a very basic software is common to all, but the tweaks around digital are very customized and they're very individual in nature. How we use it is also very individual in nature. And when it comes to customizing careers, interestingly, everyone has to carve out their own little space. There are people who can help you with that. Chances are there are mentors out there, there are coaches out there. And of course, retweaking skill is also made easy by aligning deeper with the digital space. Understanding the medium gives you a better sense of what is it that the medium can do for me, and what is it that I do best for whatever my customer set is or whatever my target set is. So let me get a little more specific from these two questions that we covered. Uh, Assuming you are an individual and you are looking for opportunities using digital as a base, or you're looking to retweak your career using digital as a base. And if you're somebody who is at that position, the first question that comes to anyone's mind is, how do you want to work? Are you somebody who's looking to sort of uh, use digital to overcome a barrier you have? That barrier might be, for example, reducing your commute. That could be a barrier. Or you could be in a place where you're saying, I already do something and I would like to sort of use the platform to take it online. I would like to use digital to build myself a customer base, or I would like the digital world to help me sell better, talk better, communicate better. Your objectives could be any of these. Or you could be somebody who already has a skill. You could be an architect. You are somebody who already offers a service, but you're looking to use digital to reach a wider base. Or you're looking to reach digital because it cuts down your cost of delivery. You're looking to accept digital as a base to grow your professional aspirations. And there are various formats through which one can adopt digital. So becoming entrepreneurial or setting up a digital shop is one way to do. If you make something, you can sell it. That's one. If you're an expert in something, you're an architect or a doctor or a professional in financial planning, chances are you could build yourself a little online shop, if I may use the term again, to reach out to your customer base and to maybe even serve them online. Or are you looking to work with what we call the corporate space? Are you looking to go and find yourself a job, but you want more of it in terms of modularity? You want more of result-only work environment, or you need more work on the process side. So a whole lot of factors come in when you are customizing careers to your preferred format, and the decision about the format is yours, because you know what your best availability is, you know your constraints, you also understand the fact that there is a kind of preferred work-life choice that you want to make, and chances that you've already made it. How can you empower it more using digital? I'll give you a very small example. A friend of mine is a brilliant writer. She was a journalist all her life, and of late she's decided she's going to live in the hills because that's where she wants to live. So her decision to turn as a freelance writer and move to the hills was adequately supported by the fact that she still does the job she used to do, except that her means of employment have changed. She works with 5 different companies as opposed to one, and she has modularized and packaged her work. So she would write an article for a certain quality in a certain field for an X amount of money, and that sort of is turning entrepreneurial while still staying as a professional. And a lot of these formats exist when it comes to digital. That's just a very small, really small little example. There's somebody I know who runs a Anthurium Park near Coimbatore, and that lady sells to Netherlands. And how does she sell to Netherlands? Because while the flowers still reach offline using a FedEx delivery, all the orders that pour on to her come from the digital space. So there's an online shop and there's an offline delivery, in a network of arrangements that's hugely global. I mean, her little park is sort of a shining example of what digital can do to our lives. And pretty much most of us who live in cities have access to internet, have access to other means of communication, and there are customizable formats of work. Interestingly, the decision to customize your career is also a decision to figure out how much of what do you you want? How do you, what is the preferred mix of work time and leisure time? So are you somebody who's as deeply engaged as being available 24/7, or are you somebody who wants to modularize your work and customize your work a lot more, or are you somebody who's very happy being at work 4 hours a day behind a desk, working a process so that work gets over once you log off and it's over and done with. You don't carry anything after you have logged off. So the various ways to engage and the various kind of levels to engage. So if you are setting up your own little shop, chances are you're going to be deeply engaged. You're going to be always tracking stuff online, or you're going to be always building stuff to stay ahead of the game. But if you're somebody who just runs a back-end process for an X organization from the vicinity of your home or from wherever you do, or you go to a particular location and do that task, chances are it's just so much simpler. Irrespective of what you do and who you are and the kind of commitment you want, there are certain truths about the newer work arrangements, and I think loss of hierarchy is the biggest thing that has happened. So it does not matter what is your age, race, color, name in the game, or even the credentials you carry sometimes, although they do matter, to a large extent. But the fact is, everything on digital is a result-only work environment. What you deliver is who you are, unfortunately or fortunately for some. And because a lot of it is intertwined, a lot of it is dependent on many variables, and while the whole digital economy exists, it hasn't gone away from the offline economy or the real economy where goods and services are produced and shipped. The focus on relationships and communication is huge. And I think the only reason that lady can ship anthuriums to Netherlands from her farm is because she spent time building those relationships and communicating constantly with whosoever is the relevant stakeholder set, in this case the customer or your vendors or your service boy. And increasingly, except for in what we call the 9-to-9 office format, the workplace time is going to decrease drastically. There's going to be less and less of face time, and even within workplaces, teams are strapped for time. They're strapped for the ability to spend long hours on a certain project. Everyone's got things allocated to them, and the moment you move out of the vicinity of an organization or a corporation, it just gets more acute. And especially if you are somebody who runs an independent identity or an independent venture or an independent service delivery on the internet, then the workplace time is always going to be a premium piece. And irrespective of what kind of format you engage in, I think never before the focus on results has been higher. Digital pretty much maps what you can do and what you deliver and matrixizes it. It sort of puts them into a very repeatable, mappable format. You can put those numbers and map them. You can map things as granular as who came to your shop from which part of the world to very, very detailed formats. So how does that change skills for a lot of us? And a lot of us were trained in what I call the non-digital environments, where the focus on discipline was very high, the focus on moral values, focus on respecting loyalty. These are very, very core to a lot of our upbringing. But I find that as digital grows, certain skills are hugely innate, and some of us do struggle with them. The ability to constantly analyze, the ability to take reams of information and connect the dots, and those reams of information are spread all over the internet and in conversations. The ability to collaborate, the ability to use tools to collaborate is a huge plus. If you're somebody who can who can collaborate with multiple stakeholders at the same time, can define deliverables, can put transparency and process into whatever you're doing is huge. And the fact remains that technology is always going to change. Technology will keep changing itself, and we just have to make sure we are there at some level of engagement for it, because the moment our ability to upgrade on our technical knowledge, and that technical knowledge is not just knowledge of code, that knowledge is the knowledge of tools available to us, the marketing information, how the world around us is changing, how the consumer behavior is impacted by technologies around them. And I think the whole app economy is a brilliant example of that. Intuition, because a lot of it is built on base of relationships, and a lot of it is constantly under pressure, because it's a 24/7. Whatever you do online never shuts shop. However you engage online never sort of goes away. Your footprint stays. Intuition is your sole driver when it comes to decision making, when it comes to the point of figuring out the fits, figuring out what works for you, figuring out what kind of content, figuring out a whole lot of it. I mean, there will always be reams of business information and data and analytics to back up everything you do, but nothing on earth is ever going to replace the good old intuition. And the other key skill for everyone, irrespective of who you are, is constant education. I mean, there are tons of CEOs I meet every day who are grappling with the changes that are hitting their businesses, including the fact that the digital gap is widening between what used to be traditional businesses and what used to be very stable environments. Everyone will need to keep up in different formats, some through very structured learning and some through learning with whatever comes their way. But being able to keep up with both your skill and the environment around you is almost an imperative skill. Men, women, young, old, I think it applies to pretty much everyone. I think when we talk about the whole digital economy, and I'm talking about India in particular because we're fairly uniquely placed as a country in terms of the kind of problems we have, the kind of solutions we are seeking, the kind of demographic makeup that we have, and the kind of business environment we operate in. So just to illustrate, it's easier to set up an online business than to set up a factory today. It also is easier to talk to a lot of young people using online than it is to, say, talk to women who are in rural areas. But that also means there's an opportunity to create connects with the ones you cannot directly talk to. The face of digital has two very distinct identities. The one is what we call the mainstream identity, and then there is what I call the alternate identity, the ability to empower using what you have, whether it is through an online radio station or whether it is through creating solutions using various mediums like the mobile phone or putting things on what we call the open source setups. Interestingly, when you build something in the digital space, whether you're setting yourself up as a professional or you're branding yourself or you're doing anything, the connect will always be digital. You will always be ranked internationally, even though your business might not be there. Or the context of the global changes is never going to go away. The Bitcoin story is a very interesting example. So irrespective of the fact that the innovation had nothing to do with India, but every change in that market will impact everybody who's indirectly or directly related to it. There are new formats. We spoke about some, and of course, the emergence of what we call the independent professional, the emergence of the small office, home office business, the emergence of the mompreneur, the emergence of small and medium business, the emergence of the telecommuter. These are all formats that pretty much define what work looks like today, what are the choices that lie before us. But a clear choice that is available to all of us is to embrace digital better and equip ourselves better. All right. Interestingly, the thing that changed is the fact that the digital world does not monetize in the same way as the offline world. The perception of value is different, the products are different, their delivery is different, and the scale is different. I mean, if you've looked at any changes around you, if you've looked at, so here is a 5-year-old Facebook which can give the good old telecom operator a run of its money. So if you look at the WhatsApp Facebook deal, which is $19 billion, that is more than the market capitalization of, say, Bharti Airtel, which is the largest telco provider in India. So if you put these things in context, it changes the flavor of what is perceived as value, what is saleable, what do products look like, and how do you reach a wider audience. So a success is a big success, whereas a failure is a mediocre failure. So interesting, there's a lot of material on it's models that are built for digital and what one can do as an individual. But it's important to understand what is perceived as value. Culturally, I think one of the things that's happened in our times is we've got used to free stuff, except for Microsoft and Windows. I don't think there are many things we pay for in the online space, and that has created a culture where a lot of things are assumed as given. The freemium economy, the free samples, the trial runs. I think these are cultures where the perception of value and the perception of customer expectation has changed, and it's constantly evolving, but it's moving towards more and more openness, more collaboration, and lesser of control. So control is the last thing that perhaps digital wants to offer. Of course, there's a larger conversation about privacy and who controls the internet and who controls 80% of the internet. But irrespective of the fact that if you and I are looking at it as individuals or as business owners or as prospective professionals, then our understanding of how digital drives value is significant. I also want to share some kind of opportunities, and a lot of these are opportunities that are available within my line of work, so I'm happy to share them with you. And especially if you are somebody who's re-engineering work, who used to be a 9-to-9 professional and needs to sort of re-engineer how work looks like, then these are some very easy lookable formats without having to make a larger change. But irrespective of what change you make, you will still need to rework maybe times, you will need to ramp up some infrastructure, you may need to change things around you a bit, and obviously each of these elements is customized. So what I'm sharing with you is some examples of how opportunities are being shaped. What are the kind of opportunities one sees a lot, and in my line of work we see a fair number of them. So for example, some skills will never go out of style, and you will always come back to reapplying them to digital, and I find sales is one of those skills. So if you can't make something, you can sell something, and if you can sell something, you're in a fairly good place, and that as a skill is fairly interesting. Being able to make something out of reams of information and data, being able to read data and put it into some perspective is a very valuable skill, and as the amount of information around us grows, as the internet makes it more complex, I think use of analytics and statistics is a pretty good skill to have, and pretty good independent skill to have. The dependencies get reduced as you do that. If you're somebody who can code, I think you're in a very good place. And while the kind of languages you code and the kind of frameworks, the kind of OS one codes for or works for will change, and that's a very individual and a one-time kind of situation. But if you can code, I think, and of course you can code well, and it's assumed that you could do that. Being able to teach online, I mean, the world of learning has changed thanks to MOOCs and thanks to Coursera and Udemy and a whole lot of learning technologies, blended learning and online learning around us. And I think there is stuff to be done both as users and consumers. Uh, the digital world worships good design. I think design is really the new marketing, and pretty much redefining how things work. So if you're somebody who can do stuff with design or even lend that as an expertise, I think you're sort of in a good place. Some of these are models which are sort of very oftenly asked. These are things that keep ringing in my ears at least. So there are tons of companies looking for people who can do offline, do online what they used to do offline, manage their communities, manage their stakeholders. So that's an interesting skill and keeps growing at all times. Irrespective of how you make money, managing money will always be a interesting ask, and it still is. Being able to build stuff for others. So you see the term beauty entrepreneur, which is build, operate, transfer. A lot of people with knowledge of code do that. A lot of people with knowledge of service delivery do that. And those are sort of evergreen. I'm sharing some of the evergreen models or evergreen choices that one has. And of course, because there's so many people writing software and there's so many people using software, being able to take software to undistributed territories is a pretty interesting opportunity that lies before us. And I want to take a moment to talk about content, because content is a eager ask on the internet. I mean, everyone needs content, whether it's mobile or whether it's platform or whether it's publishing world. But the fact is, content is changing. And it also is a fact that there is too much of it, which means only the best in class wins. It also means that one's game always needs to be top of the line. It also means that there is a lot of clutter, and the need to break through the clutter has never been high. Here are some more examples that I'd like to share with you, and these are a lot of people are turning their hobbies into their businesses. And I think the internet presents a brilliant opportunity to position yourself, to re-engineer your favorite thing to do into some form of business. There are people who are domain experts in whatever they do. It could be law, it could be science, it could be cooking, it could be landscaping, but chances are there's an opportunity for each one of you out there. Research, human resource, being able to market on the internet. I mean, that's something a lot of us are fighting for, but there are unique skills that one can apply to that. And while whatever you decide to do, the significance of brand you on the internet is very, very high. People need to perceive you as, so part of creating value is also creating brand you, creating your discoverability, creating the portrayal of what your core skills or core value are, and of course delivering. I mean, it almost ends at delivery for each one of us. And that's pretty much sort of what the scope of this conversation is. And while the conversation can extend to days altogether, I think the crux of the matter is a lot of it lies in our own hands. And I think those are choices that we never had before, or at least the amplification of the choice never happened before. But today there is so much one can do and so much one can customize. It's sometimes almost crazy because it's a wide open field, but that's actually the real opportunity for each one of us. So good luck to all of you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Well, that was a great session, Sairi. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us so freely. I'm sure you guys have questions, so please press the raise hand button on your control panel if you want to ask your question, or you can type it in the chat box below. Okay, so since not many people have asked a question yet, let me just ask one thing from you, Sairi. Would you like to share a
Yeah.
few key pointers that women should keep in mind that can help them customize their careers for the digital economy?
Okay. So, irrespective of what you want to do, I think the significance of networks, the significance of being able to reach out to the right kind of people to help you is important. And the significance of making sure that the information about you, wherever it is updated. So a lot of times people don't know what is it that you're seeking or what is it that you're building or where is it that you are at. So the ability to communicate and network will always be a significant factor in re-engineering our journeys. So, I'll give you an example. I might be an entrepreneur and I'm looking to raise funds. I need to say that somewhere. I need to communicate that. Obviously not on the wrong forums, but being able to portray what is it that is your next ask is important. You're building a product and your immediate circle on social networks does not know is sort of a not cool situation, right? It starts with your first degree of network and goes from there.
Right. Thank you so much. So a question just came in. Akansha asked,
Right.
what kind of risk can come when we plan to customize our careers?
What kind of risk? So I think managing your reputation online is a big concern, because while it's an open space, it also means that the openness stays. Your digital footprint is always going to stay. It's not going to go away. Whatever you share on the internet or whatever you build on the internet, also your reputation. So if you unfortunately build a reputation of being unreliable or being unavailable or being uh, or not communicating, often that reputation is going to stay. Irrespective of what you do, what your footprint and your behavior is likely to stick more online than offline. And one has to be careful about that. Being able to portray the right values in whatever you want to do. So if you're looking for a job, there's a certain kind of value system you want to stay with. If you're looking to set up your own business, if you're looking to move to becoming an independent professional, your values need to come through so that you connect to the right kind of people.
Thank you. Sorry, Akansha, I hope that answers your question. So we have another question by Mukta. Her question is, I am an HR professional with strength as a recruiter. Now doing BD, that is business development for a training firm, how can I use the digital space?
Uh, that's a brilliant question, because you already know your strengths are in HR. You're already doing something. So what digital offers you is really a large market to begin with. So if you're somebody who's looking for people who are buying HR services or identity services, you have access to a larger market. Are you using digital to put out that message? Do enough people know you? Would you be the first person on at least 100 persons phone list or their email list when they have a requirement in their organization? You can build that brand using digital. You can do a blog, you can do a newsletter if you'd like, you can share success stories, you can use social to sort of put your message out there. There are many ways to do this, but if you know who your customer is and what product you're selling, you can use digital to market that to begin with. And of course, you can diversify. If you are somebody who is doing it for one person, do you see yourself doing this for maybe 5 companies, maybe 10 companies as a consultant? I don't know. These are some very specific asks that you can create out of your own line of work. And then, of course, the field itself is evolving, right? So digital will allow you to tap into newer opportunities that are emerging.
All right, Sairi. So we have another question. Akansha is asking, is there a way which can help choosing a career, or is that an individual decision fully?
So there are many ways to coming to a career decision. Your own life is a fairly good indicator and your own aspirations. But there are very specific ways of going around and finding out what your best strengths are. So using, for example, psychometric testing is a great way. Working with a coach is a great way to do that. There is also staying connected with communities. So for example, the Shiro's communities does exactly that. We host the career hour because a lot of people are struggling with the same question. on where do my strengths lie and how do I use this. There are many ways to going or, looking at that. It starts with your own personal reflection, and then you go out into the industry and see where are the opportunities for you.
Fair point, Sairi. Okay, so we have another question by Pavitra. She's asking, I'm a data whiz, UX UI designer, and we might be moving to New Zealand in some months. How do you recommend I manage the career split? I'm looking to understand how to manage work and shift.
Right. So I'd like to tell Pavitra that she's using a skill, or she has a skill which is hugely in demand. I come across at least 10 firms who are looking for people with your skills. But are you able to remodularize your work? Would you be able to work offline when you go to New Zealand? Would you be able to serve your clients when they give you work? So interestingly, we are looking for a UX designer who can do some work for us, and we don't care where that person sits. And a lot of people don't care where you're sitting. Till such time, you can take a brief and intuitively, use all of those skills. You can collaborate and you can send work off in time. You can do quality work. Then there is enough work, and you just have to establish yourself and let your network know. So start by telling us what you can do and what is it that you would like to do. And of course, we're just one point. You will know at least 100 people in your network, and that's a good way to sort of starting off and saying, I'd like to do this. But before you send a word out, make sure you're the best UX person they will possibly work with.
All right, thank you, Sairi. So, in addition to what Mukta asked earlier, she said she asked you that she wanted, to do business development for a training firm using the digital space. She is now asking, how does the free thing which digital space allows dilutes my credentials? She is trying to ask, does it dilute her credentials?
The free thing, I didn't understand the question. Let me sort of go back a bit. So she does business development for an HR firm, and in her case, so she's not selling any goods or services online, right? So if you're not selling anything that's online, your customer still buys it offline. The transactions conducted offline. The information is shared online. So technically this doesn't apply. So the premium question doesn't apply here.
So she's trying to ask you if people would take her seriously.
People will take us seriously if the communication is relevant, if it is timely, if it's on the right forums, and of course you're not spamming them. I think one of the perils of being online is that we are all being spammed with hordes of information, and it's harder to find the right thing that you're looking for. So being able to go after the person who needs your services is important. And of course you will be taken seriously if you have a valid conversation, if you have a valid offer, if the product or service that you're offering is required by the customer. And so you can reach faster, you can reach cheaper, and you can do it better, but you have to make it more targeted, because it's like a whole world out there. You don't want to sell to everyone. Everyone's not your customer, and everyone's not waiting to talk to you.
Right, Sairi. So thank you so much. I have a couple of questions myself. So you talked about sample opportunities in the digital space. So can you just quickly list down ways that can help women in improving their digital skill set? Or would you like to share some resources that they can use?
So I'd like to definitely say that we all are always learning in the digital world. I mean, I think those times are gone where we just learned in our college. I mean, I know of women, and I myself do it, that every 6 months I have to learn something new. I have to learn something I didn't know last year. I have to equip myself with something better. And that will continue to happen. Being able to get back into the learning mode, whether it's an online class or whether it is through a group or learning an activity, I think it's very, very important. And there are many ways. Of course, Coursera, Khan Academy are brilliant skills. They are like God's gift to mankind. And then, of course, there are groups within whatever your line of business is. There are business networks, there are startup communities, there are online resources, there are articles, there are publications. enough to give you ammunition to go out there and do that. And of course, working with communities, working with other people around you, working with networks is an important plus for all of us, and not just women or men. I think anybody who's online has to keep reworking their skills and their preferences at all times.
All right. Thank you once again. So just one last question I'm going to take here. What advice do you have for women who are in the work-life transition period? So we had a similar question where somebody was moving to New York. Now, I would like to understand how women can actually cope up with that work-life transition, and what can they do when they are switching from a full-time job to a flexible job? Would you like to give some advice to them?
Right. So transitions can mean many things, right? So moving cities is one, moving phase of life, or being, or just taking some time off, or enrolling for a course can mean a transition. So there are many ways one transitions, and obviously the logistical question is how much time do you have, how much infrastructure do you have, and what is the closest fit with where you are. And once you've answered that, of course, there are tons of opportunities. There are tons of opportunities online. There are also tons of opportunities of establishing your own self as a potential independent. And being an independent professional has great advantages, because it allows you complete ownership of deciding these factors. And given the fact that if you are moving, if you're somebody who's moving countries, you're moving cities, you will take one time to settle down. So use that time to understand what is a good potential fit. Once you've decided on a potential fit in terms of time and logistics and space, then one can go after, finding the kind of work, and keep your network alive at all times. I think going off the radar in the digital world and assuming that somebody will find you is not viable. We just too bombarded with our own lives and dreams of information at us every day. Nobody is going looking for anyone except for maybe immediate family. So be visible on the radars and have your asks clearly stated somewhere in some format. So it could be sending mails to the colleagues you work with, for example, and letting them know that you're doing this. Chances are your first set of orders, your first set of employment may come from people who know you, because they already know your credibility.
All right, Sairi. Since we're running short on time here, I will request those who still have questions to please mail them at webinars@srijan.in. Thank you once again, Sairi, for answering all the questions very patiently. We are sure that everyone found your presentation and your answers very interesting and insightful. And thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us in today's webinar. Just one last thing, I would also like to announce that our upcoming webinar is an open-ended discussion on UI and UX with Sri Krishnan on March 19th. Sri is the UX lead at Google India and has been an interaction designer for over 18 years. For registrations, you will be getting a mail from our site. So stay tuned and have a great day, everybody.